Welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. This is going to be a bit of scattered thoughts. I don't know if you want to call it a rant. I don't know what you want to call it, but I don't have a plan per se. I just know that there are thoughts running around my brain concerning the Indiana Fever, concerning the game against Las Vegas, concerning Caitlin Clark in particular. And I got to say this. A lot of you already know this because you tell me that you appreciate this. And that is here on the Adrienne Ross Show, you're going to get my authentic self. You're not going to get me just going along to get along, repeating what other people are saying. And sometimes that means I'm out there on a limb by myself, but I'm willing to do that. That's one of the reasons why, as you know, if I'm going to talk about a certain topic, I avoid probably 99% of the time, if not more, I avoid listening to what other people have to say about it because, again, I want you to get my authentic feelings and thoughts. I don't want it clouded by a lot of stuff. So I don't like to listen to stuff before I do the commentary. And honestly, for a while now, I'm not listening to a lot of stuff, period, before or after. So what I have to share today, however it comes out, because there's no structure, it's just all swimming around in my brain. However it comes out, it's going to be what I truly believe. Now, in my commentary, there may be times when I'm wrong, but I tell you what, I'm going to be sincerely wrong if I'm wrong at all. It's going to be what I truly believe, because there's a lot of stuff out there with, people bandwagon. I know how it works, right? Somebody has a narrative and then somebody else latches onto that narrative, and then they're sharing the same narrative, and then Caitlin Clark says something and it fits the narrative, so it's kind of twisted to fit the narrative that's what Caitlin was saying, when in fact that's not what Caitlin was saying at all. But it goes with the narrative, and so people go along with it, and then all the listeners and the observers, they're like, yeah, and then they, that's how media works, whether you're talking about social media now or whether you're talking about mainstream media. It works that way. That's why media it powerful, because people latch on and then it becomes this whole big growing thing. And I avoid all that stuff. I'm going to tell you what I believe and what I feel, whether you agree or not. I mean, that's what makes America great, right? Rebecca Lobo. So when it comes to the Indiana Fever, we'll start with the loss against the Aces. This team, Indiana, came out strong out of the gate, played with fast tempo. They looked really good on defense. And the Aces, they were struggling with the defense. Aaliyah Boston was taking it to fellow Gamecock Asia Wilson, who had an attitude about it. And Asia was missing a lot of shots. I mean, she had been out and she'd come back, I guess, a game before or something like that. And so the Fever looked really good. And then came the second half. And this is what we're wondering. Will this team be able to put together 4 quarters, a full game? Because we're seeing situations where they have it in the beginning, but then that third quarter is always a tough quarter for them, and fourth quarter came, and so it's been a bumpy road. But like I said, they started out looking really good, and their defense was good, and when their defense is good, then they're able to execute the game plan, which is to run. So I keep explaining when people start to wonder, well, why aren't they running anymore? And I try to explain that if they're not getting stops, if they're not getting rebounds, it becomes really difficult to run. Now, Caitlin Clark shared in the post game that she should have continued to run, but instead she slowed things down. That wasn't the game plan. That wasn't how they started, but it was what she ended up finding herself doing. And she took responsibility for that. Now, the Aces, like I said, were missing shots. Asia Wilson was missing shots. And you got to know with a team like that, they're not going to continue to miss shots. if you looked at the stats alone, you would say, wow, Caitlin Clark had another good game. She had 19 points. She had 10 assists. She had 3 rebounds. Wow, she had a good game. But if you watch the game, you know it wasn't a good game. And it was on the back of another game that looked on the box score like it was a good game. The game previous to that against the Valkyries, Caitlin had a near triple double. She had 11 points. What did she have? Like, she had 11 points, I think 9 assists, 7 rebounds, if I remember right. And like I said, it wasn't a good game. The shooting percentage wasn't good. Now, in this situation, Caitlin is so smart. Her shot's not falling. She went 7 for 20 from the field, 1 for 10 from 3. But Caitlin's a passer, and she started off the game cooking. She and Aaliyah Boston, that 2-man game, just phenomenal. Aaliyah Boston, of course, went off for 26 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists in this game. She was 12 for 19. So they look good together. That's a great combo. And people were saying it in the chat, wow, they've got a connection going. You know, this team likes to get out and run. But the good thing about it is when you have Aaliyah and Caitlin on the floor, that 2-man game is working. It's working when it's working. But again, you have to play for 4 quarters, and this team is struggling to be able to do that. You had, let's see, Kelsey Mitchell. She had 20 points. She went 8 for 13 from the field, 3 for 6 from the 3. Still struggling with her free throws there. She had 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and she had a block even. Then you got Natasha Howard with 7, Lexi Hull with 7, and Brianna Turner with 2. 81 Indiana, 89 Las Vegas. Asia Wilson was looking like trash at the beginning of the game. Her shooting percentage was horrible for the game, 8 for 21 from the field. She took a 3 and missed a 3. She had 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, and 24 points. So she came out firing in the second half. Chelsea Gray with 18, Jewel Lloyd with 10, Jackie Young with 19. I mean, every person on their squad, every person who played scored, except Kia Stokes, who was a starter, played 19 minutes and did not score, but had 6 rebounds and 1 assist. Now, I got to say, a lot of people are really frustrated. A lot of fans are frustrated. And I say fans in quotation marks for some, and not all. You know, some real fans are frustrated, but in the chat, if you were in the chat, you saw, you know, some people, supposed fans, all of a sudden, Caitlin has 2 bad games. Caitlin's trash. Caitlin's soft. Caitlin's regular. That was the word yesterday. Caitlin's regular. And I'm not watching a regular basketball player. There's a reason why I didn't play before. If she's going to be regular, then I don't want anything to do with it. And of course, you know, the real fans in the group said, well, then don't watch. I mean, you know, it's a decision that you have to make. I said, if Caitlin is regular, we all should be regular. If Caitlin is soft, we all should be soft. But Caitlin, for sure, is perhaps in a bit of a slump, if you want to call it that, 2 games. She actually is kind of playing now the way one would expect her to have played when she came back after being out. She came back against the Liberty and went off. She played a good game against Connecticut, in spite of all the physicality or abuse, if you want to be honest. So it's sort of like a delayed, right? Some delayed bad games. Like I said, you would kind of expect that perhaps when she first came back. She came back with a vengeance. And then now, I mean, she's not just missing her shots, but she's missing bad. You know, it's not, you know, air ball, bricks, stuff like that. But she was smart enough to say, well, let me try to get to the basket. She talked about in the post game as well. Let me try to get to the basket. And of course, she always makes everyone better. So she facilitates. And I'm glad that she put up 20 shots. I mean, sometimes Caitlin doesn't put up 20 shots even when she's shooting well. And so shooters shoot. And shooters also find a way to mix it up, to get other people involved, to try to get to the basket, to try to get to the line. However, speaking of getting to the line, Indiana got to the line 9 times. They took 9 free throws. They made 7 of those. Las Vegas shot 21 free throws. A'ja Wilson she was 8 for 10 from the line. She took 10 free throws. She alone took more free throws than the entire Indiana Fever team. And this is why Indiana has to maintain leads. They had a 10-point lead in this game at one point. They have to keep the lead because you cannot put it in the hands of the official. Because what did we see? What did we see in the second half? We saw the officials deciding to insert themselves into this game. And I'm not trying to blame the officials for everything, but even Rebecca Lobo was calling out the officials because it's obvious when Indiana looks like they're going to do something, looks like they might get it done, the officials step in. And that's exactly what they did with some phantom calls, some bad calls, some A'ja Wilson special whistle calls. A'ja was getting cooked by Aaliyah Boston. And somebody on social media had showed a clip. Looks like A'ja Wilson was telling her that she was flopping Aaliyah Boston. That's all you do is flop or whatever. These days, is it AI? Is it what? I don't know. But she was just getting cooked. And then when she did something great, she had to, flex a little bit, like whatever, But yeah, that special whistle gets annoying. The officials trying to step it up against the Fever constantly, it's annoying. But at the same time, the Fever must take responsibility, and that's everyone on the court. Now, and everyone on the sideline, everybody. But I have to be honest and I have to be fair, as I have been. We have not seen this Indiana Fever team in its entirety. We've had Caitlin injured in preseason. Then we had Sophie injured. Then we had Caitlin injured in the regular season, and Sophie injured again, and Sid Colson injured, and Dantas was injured and had a loss in the family, and she was gone. And then we had DeWanna Bonner, she's out. Well, Coach White, I think, was first, and then she's out for personal reasons, and then DeWanna Bonner's out for personal reasons, and then Coach White is out for personal reasons. Like, we have not seen the whole team together. So it's hard to say, well, this whole team is just trash. We've not even seen the whole team. But we still want to see this team play well, whoever's there, and we want to see them play well for 4 quarters. Can they put together a full game? Now let's talk about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin is not feeling well. A lot of people are saying, man, what's going on with Caitlin? Oh, Caitlin's being held back. Oh, free Caitlin. Like, I'm not getting into all that. This team, when they start out with the game plan, and that is to play with pace and play fast. And they start out with energy and defense. And then, unfortunately, it goes south. The defense isn't there. The rebounding isn't there. There are turnovers, a lot of turnovers in this game, and then they can't run. Yeah, you can try to catch the ball out of the hoop and try to push it up the floor, but basically you're going to be better when you play good defense, get stops, and push the ball up the floor. But Caitlin is not feeling well. Now, I had heard people before say she's sniffling, she's coughing, and you could see, I saw it not even the day of the game, but I saw it when she was asked, I think the day before that, about having the most votes in All-Star voting. And there didn't seem to be any energy. She sounded congested. And then in the pregame, she sounded congested. You could see she wasn't feeling well. And then in the post-game, you really could see it. Not only was she coughing and sniffling, but I noticed in that post-game conference after the loss to Las Vegas, she took a couple swallows 2 different times and she was wincing. So my guess is that her glands are swollen, her throat is hurting, because it visibly hurt for her to swallow. Now, Kayla's not going to say that, right? She's not going to make excuses. And like I said in a recent video, you can't make excuses because every team is dealing with something, right? So she's not making excuses, but I'm an observer and I'm a commentator. And so I'm going to say what I see. and Caitlin is not feeling well. I also think that some of this is psychological. Um, shooters have slumps, right? Shooters sometimes have slumps. I'm like Stephanie White in that I'm not worried about her shot. The shot will be there. But some of it is psychological. A lot of it is a lot of sports happens to be psychological. I do believe the Connecticut game um, weighed on them. That was extremely physical. Understand that Caitlin came for the basketball. She entered the league for the basketball, and then she goes through Connecticut, and there's this obviously with JC Sheldon, that situation, and Tina Charles and Marina Mabry, and then Sophie had to get involved. And I know a lot of the fans are like, yes, Sophie. And, hey, thankfully Sophie is willing to get in there and say, no, this is not going to happen. But for a Caitlin, she doesn't delight in that. There's no delight in the fact that it comes to this because the officials won't do their job. So I do believe that is playing a factor as well, coupled with the fact that she's clearly not well. And again, she's not going to complain about it. She's not going to say anything about it, but it is what it is. And she's playing through it, and she's off. And like she says, some of them felt really good coming off of her hand. It just didn't go down. And that happens. And she'll come out of it. So again, we haven't seen this full team. We haven't seen 4 quarters from this full team. If we have, I don't recall it. And we still don't have DeWanna Bonner. We don't know what's going on with her. It's been a lot of adversity, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And now you've got Caitlin off, and others are off as well. Injuries, sicknesses, the whole thing. I still believe that this team is going to turn it around and is going to make a push, but they're going to have to be able to play for 4 quarters, and they're going to have to be like, they're going to have this killer instinct with the personnel they have and whoever else gets brought in or put out, because the officials are going to make it difficult for them. The officials are the 6th man on the floor against them, and how they can review some of this stuff and still not come back with a favorable ruling for the Fever is beyond me, because some of it is just so obvious. And when you have like a Debbie Antonelli calling the game or Rebecca Lobo calling the game, they'll call that out. But these officials don't seem to mind that everybody's complaining about them. Everybody says, look, I'm willing to get fined because this is ridiculous. And it is. So the Fever, I mean, everybody has to take a look in the mirror, and everybody's got to do better. And that's from the top all the way to the bottom. And they've got to put together 4 quarters. And you know what, Caitlin said something, I think it was in the pregame. She talked about how she's learned that she has to give herself grace. And so I'm glad that she is doing that. Like, she could be seriously crashing out right now, but thankfully she's not. I could tell the frustration, but she said, I've got to learn. Like, I'm not going to be perfect all the time, and I have to give myself grace. And that was something Kelsey Mitchell said when Caitlin won Rookie of the Year. Remember that? Give yourself some grace, kid. C squared. Give yourself some grace. Unfortunately, there are people out there with all the noise who have no grace to give, in spite of everything this team has gone through and is going through. And like, when you call yourself a fan and you start calling her soft and trash and regular in an insulting way, it's like, really? Caitlin Clark has done so much for this game, for her team, and honestly, I think some of this is wearing on her emotionally. Like, again, she didn't come into the league for the drama. She came to the league for the basketball, but welcome to the WNBA. But she's also sick. She sounds terrible. And the coughing, the sneezing, and the hard swallowing, not feeling well, I could tell. She'll be back with a vengeance. And either way, I'm here for it. It's a tough West Coast swing. Seattle's not going to be any easier, I don't think. It's just hard when you lose games that you could win. But remember, they're also playing against the officials. And not to blame it all on the officials, but all this stuff plays a factor. It really does. You get to the line 9 times, What? To 21. These are my thoughts. A lot of them all over the place. I got to kind of apologize because it's just all over the place. But I did want to weigh in on the game. And I want to remind those of you who were in the chat on Sunday and those of you who weren't, I am going to be hitting the road in another day and a half or whatever at this point. And so I will not be available probably even on Tuesday for live stream because the next morning it's off to the races. So you're likely not going to have any live streams from me. So find yourself a positive, knowledgeable, fun channel to watch the games with or watch it on your own. So I will try to catch you while I'm on the road here and there. I'll be thinking about you, of course, and I'm sure I'll be popping in. But I'll catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly. Hit the subscribe button.